everyone. I am Cameron Fain. If you could, just get everybody to stand up, please, get a little classroom participation. Alright. If you've been sick in the last month, sit down. If you've been sick in the last 2 months, please have a seat. If you've been sick sometime this year, have a seat. If you were ever sick at some time, okay, perfect. Now to turn over to more serious matter. So we can go and talk to you about the situation.
Hi, I'm Shamika. I have a little scenario. I had a friend, she just turned 21, of course. You know, when you turn 21, you have to go get your first drink, your legal drink. So her and a group of friends went to the pub to go get their first drinks or whatever. So you know, one drink turned into like 2 or 3 drinks. And 3 drinks turned to like a little body shot at the bar. And then it turned to her getting her whole pitcher and she was chugging. So eventually she's like passed out, she's sick, she's burned up. Her friends take her back to campus, and the next morning she wakes up, so she's still sick, she's throwing up. She goes to health services to get checked on, and she tells them she thinks she has alcohol poisoning. But in reality, when they run tests on her, they found out that she's pregnant.
Say along, like what Tamika has said. Basically, as college students, for health services, as Bloodline Consultants, we want you guys to utilize the service that you have here, as far as you are paying for these services, so therefore, why not use these services? They're at your aspect at any time, so please feel free to use those. As well as Bloodline Consultants, we want to increase health services in many ways, and to sum it up, we want to increase on a external level, as well as internal, as well as a overall image, the overall image of health services. Tie it over.
Okay, now I'm going to tell you guys the story behind Flatline Consultants. It's kind of a tragic story. A group of students were touring their office in the Twin Towers, and it's known as one of the most tragic times in U.S. history of the United States. On this day, 6 of them were rushed to the hospital. No, all of them rushed to the hospital, and because of the high volume of the incident that happened, service was really slow, and it resulted in 6 casualties. The other victims who were not as seriously ill, they thought to come together to help make the hospital more efficient and successful. And now Tyler will talk to you about the company's background.
I'm here to introduce our team for Flatline Consultants. Flatline Consulting specializes in helping businesses in the healthcare industry to become a fully developed company with the skills and knowledge to perform with integrity and efficiency. To ensure that we give the very best consulting advice, we have constructed the very best consulting team, although you may not believe it by looking at us. To my right, I have Christy Clinton, the CFO, who was in charge of researching and weighing the different recommendations for health services. And then we have Christian Ashford, who's the CEO. He was instrumental in the development of the background story and the statement of needs. Then we have Wei Chu Xiao, who is CIO, who headed up the research for the internal communications. Then we have Cameron Fain, who is our marketing manager, and he did the letter of transmittal and the executive summary. And then we have Tamika Teasley, who is a project manager and who was instrumental in providing help in the overall proposal as well as providing the background. And I am Tyler Slaughter, and I am COO, and I was in charge of finding the research for the external communication. We are Flatline Consulting, and now I'm going to turn it over to our CEO, Christian.
Okay, first I want to thank Ms. Bucks for being here with us today. Her, as well as the rest of the personnel at Health Services, you guys supposedly. We're very diligent in answering our emails as well as providing answers to any questions we have. Health services on the campus of the University of West Georgia was founded not only to treat sick students on campus, but they were also founded to take preventative measures against things that could be detrimental to the health of the mind and body, like STDs and suicide. This is really a two-headed monster because you want to be good at preventing things like that, but you also want to be ready when things do happen. We gave a survey on campus to find out how many students actually knew that health services provided preventative care for things like that, and we found out it was only 15% of the students knew. And after we spoke with Ms. Butts and other personnel, we came to the conclusion that this was due to lack of traffic to the health services website, as well as students not opening up their email. I know personally when I see it, I just swipe delete. But later on in the presentation, Kirsty is going to give you guys some of our recommendations on how you can get some more students involved. But for now, Future is going to speak to you about some internal communication.
Okay, our team has analyzed the current internal communication within healthcare service of the University of West Georgia. We found there are 4 primary ways healthcare service use to communicate internally. Face-to-face communication are mainly used as for formal communication, such as the staff meeting. The staff meeting of healthcare service is conducted every week on Friday morning. As we know, also formal communication is also communicated through print. Print media are not utilized very much in the healthcare service because it's lack of efficiency to send our message across the board. We found out like healthcare service has different sectors, not all located in the same building, and it's make internal communication a bit difficult because they have to use printed materials. So as well as face-to-face, it's not as efficient. So healthcare service has utilized mainly with the on-the-web method of communication. Healthcare service has its own website. They use emails, Google Calendar, and wiki site to communicate different things throughout the board. There's also the mobile way which they use it for informal communication, such as Google Meet, text message, calls. Those are for maybe staff to staff. It's not very much of a top-down communication, but they do use mobile method to communicate internally to increase the efficiency and effectiveness if they need something urgent. And these are our SWOT analysis of the health service of University of West Georgia. Its sales strength is low cost. It provides low cost service with efficient, with expertise low cost expertise service. That means for student. I'm so sorry. Okay. Its accessibility is based on its location advantage. Its weakness is the check-in process. The check-in process, Christy will talk to you more about it later on, but the check-in process is not as efficient as we want it to be. There are also the long wait time that students experience as reported from the survey that we conducted. There's also limited availability from the operation hours, and there's a lack of student awareness. And I will hand Tyler over for the exam.
Hi, again, my name is Tyler Slaughter, and I'm over the external communications. I'll step over here for a second. Can I just get a show of hand of how many people are on Facebook or Twitter? All right, thank you. And also, can I get a show of hands of how many people either like or are friends with the health services page? Okay, well, see, that percentage is very rough. We need to definitely up that, and that's what we are here for. The efforts that go into the social networking is approximately 45%. So that's the majority of the efforts that is trying to outreach to the student bases. Secondly, we have the face-to-face, which typically you see as tabling. That's done about 6 times a year, and that makes up for roughly 20% of the marketing effort. Third, you have the student involvement and the volunteers/student peers who help go out and promote the health services. And this makes up for about 10%. And finally, what we could classify into 2 separate is emails, which is written portion of the marketing, as well as the website. The website is not seen as a very user-friendly source for marketing. However, the emails are sent out, and I'm sure you get them and possibly even overlook them. What it is the e-magazine as well as the weekly updates. Now, what I have here is the UWG Health Services pie chart of the different percentages of each. And like I said, the support groups is not about 10%, and then the social media is roughly 45%. Now, compared to Emory Health Services, which I talked to Dr. Huey, who is the Assistant Vice President of Health Services at Emory. He gave me these statistics from there, and their support groups and student volunteers make up 40% of their marketing scheme. And their social media only makes up roughly 20%. And definitely, the first person I would go to asking about health services would be Emory in this area. This is a better look at that, and you can see how we were placed, how they have used most of their percentage right here on support groups as well as the student volunteers, as we had used it on social media. Now I'm going to pass on the recommendations to Ms. Clanton.
Thank you, Tyler. I have the pleasure of telling you our recommendations. So health services, or you guys, have expressed a desire for improvement. Flatline Consultants has carefully considered and selected the most effective changes that we feel will increase health services value to the students. Our recommendations focus on health services image, their external communication, and student involvement. Our first recommendation addresses the image. Currently, the waiting area and receptions are a little bit uninviting. You can see from these pictures, it's kind of more dreary. Taking a picture, which, you know, that's a really dark picture where you're trying to fill out your forms. It's not great lighting. This student isn't even sitting back in her chair because she told us that the chair was broken, so she couldn't sit back in it because it had a little like sway in the back. So obviously, the broken chairs and the drab decor would be one of our first things to do. So we have some examples. Our recommendation is to update these areas. It doesn't mean gutting the entire area. We understand from your feedback that that's just simply not in the budget right now. We know that will be a very long term, and we looked at more short-term things to increase the image of health services. As you can see in the sample photos, a simple change as in the lighting. Notice more lighting, the recessed lighting where you don't feel like the fluorescent lights are giving you headaches. Creates just a more inviting atmosphere, one where if you're not feeling good, it's not going to make you feel even worse. And notice the comfy looking chairs. That's my biggest recommendation. Our next recommendation addresses the complaints on wait time and the crowded waiting room at times. We all know there's high traffic areas in the health services department. It tends to be when we're in between classes or when somebody has a break. Early mornings aren't really utilized as well as they should be. So going through the typical process, I know as board advisors, y'all typically don't use health services on a daily basis like students. But just to go through the process real quick, first thing you do is you check in. You sign your name on a sheet of paper, then you sit down. Then you wait for the receptionist to call you. And she hands you this lovely sheet of paper for you to fill out with your complaints for the day. And then you sit down again. And then the nurse comes around the corner and kind of hollers your name through the door. And that's your cue to go and tell her what's the matter. So you hand her a sheet of paper, she reads it, and that's when she finally figures out why you're even there. So, To streamline this system, we recommend installing a dedicated computer that sits on the front counter that will act as a self-checkout kiosk where students can check in using their IDs, and at the exact same time, they type in their complaint. So that way, the nurse in the back who hasn't even seen you yet can already triage who's here to pick up some necessities that they get from the pharmacy, who's here to actually see a doctor. So then those that are waiting in line just to pick up maybe some cough drops will be able to not have to wait after 5 people who need to see the doctor. So it really streamlines that process. And it also avoids the surprise to the nurses. I mean, when you're working in any field, the surprises are what kind of stresses people out. So having the nurse know that they need to have a certain exam room ready for a certain procedure or a certain type of exam would just the efficiency of that system would just be astonishing. Now, South Jordan Health Center in Utah is one of the first health facilities that implemented this self-check-in kiosk. And obviously, this is for a bigger facility. We wouldn't need the 6 or 7 computers. Just one would really facilitate that for us. Okay. All right. While Health Services offers many services, we found that a large percent of your students do not take advantage or even know of the services that are offered. In order to increase the external communication, we have 2 basic recommendations. The first takes advantage of technology. The current website is used to list information. It's great about telling us when it's open, what's available, what services, but it's not really a friendly interface where somebody would go to, to they have an appointment to find out, their personal information. So one of our biggest recommendations is to update the website. Put in a user-friendly interface that has like friendly reading formats. This kind of feels like you're reading a textbook. And if you remember when you were a student, we read enough textbooks that we really don't want to continue reading textbooks. So a more more along the lines of how 20-somethings, 19-somethings are reading their textbooks now. They're not using this format. So definitely updating the website and including the ability to log onto an account so you can check and see if you made an appointment, or you can cancel an appointment, or you have the capability of seeing when your last appointment was, or if they have your shot record, and just so you can really have your students be involved in their own health care. That's extremely important. This new website, in conjunction with the new website, also created an app. There's already a UWG app, so incorporating a little subsection in that accesses the same type of website with a user-friendly where you can make appointments. How many of your students would love to sit in class and say, I need to make an appointment? No one likes to call on the phone anymore, so that would be a great enhancement of health services. Our second recommendation for external communication would be to increase the presence of health service at orientation. That is the first time that students come on campus, usually, where it's like a captive audience. They kind of trap you, and you're staying with your group, and you're not getting away, and they make you sign on, and they make you do, all the things they need to have done. That would be a great time to encourage students to sign up for the Facebook, they have a Pinterest. How many knew they had a Pinterest? They have all these in the wellness, and that's a lot of it's focused on the wellness portion. Most students don't know about these things. And so that would be a great opportunity when you have a captive audience to really encourage students to sign up. Then you've got them for 4 years, and the amount of communication you have with your students increases exponentially. To increase student involvement, which we know is important to you as a board, we recommend 2 ways to increase your student involvement is to do fundraisers and to increase the number of table events. One suggestion, just a quick suggestion that we kind of thought would be a fun idea. We all know parking at UWG is terrible. So a way for youth health services to raise money would be to auction off a parking space right there in the prime middle of the campus. Each semester, it's a way to raise funds, and it's also a way to put health services name out there again. Yes, you have to sacrifice one parking spot, but if it helps the student body be more healthy, I think we'd all be willing to do that. So that's just one of our suggestions, and of course you would, sell the raffle tickets and go through that whole process. And it wouldn't raise enough to rebuild the facility, but it would raise enough to help our wellness center and our wellness department to reach more individuals and maybe have more personalized contact with people, maybe to have more counseling hours, to really focus the needs that they find the students have. And prime spot for a parking spot, as you can see in that next photo. All right, the second one is increasing the table events in high traffic areas. As we can see, some of these table events can be really fun. They can be involved, they can be exciting, they can really attract kids as they're walking across the campus. That's a good way to increase. I know during our research we found that they do a lot of monthly things, as we saw like with the t-shirts. This is just a great way to reach that person-to-person contact that you wouldn't have sitting in an office, and it just gives you another way to reach all the students. So in conclusion, at Flightline Consultants, we feel the benefits of our recommendations will greatly outweigh the cost. We try to look at the cost of things because we know as a university that y'all have a very strict budget. So we have it. Of course, we have a little takeaway to help y'all remember us. 91, please. Thank you. Okay. So this is a little takeaway first aid kit. It's got some goodies in there for you. So remember, Flatline Consultants is here to give you a hand when your healthcare business needs to be brought back to life. Thank you very much.
All right, we have some time for some questions. Any questions from the audience?
I have one question. What risks are involved if we were to use your recommendations?
The risk would be obviously the monetary value that you would have to sacrifice to do some of these. Some are, of course, more labor intensive, more cost intensive. Being, revamping the waiting room, that's obviously going to be a lot more money than having an extra table event. So, it would obviously, we would love to work with y'all to find out how much money you'd like to spend, and we'd really like to we did develop a budget because we really felt that would be something we'd want to do personally with you as health services to know kind of what you're more looking at spending.
Okay.
So, thank you for that question. That was great.
Why should we trust your recommendations to improve our department now and into the future?
To further along with our research, we actually went to other universities and increased them by 45%, and we went over to about 25 other universities and increased them very much. So we definitely need to do the same here at UWG.
Why would working with your consulting company be a smart choice and/or investment for us?
I feel we've done our research properly, and you see by all the graphs and everything that we have provided that we do know what we're doing. We are very capable of making this a better program.
And what do you believe our long-term potential is compared to other departments?
Obviously, we have a growing student body every semester, and eventually, sooner rather than later, the school's going to have to look at funding health services a lot more, so we can get like a new facility as opposed to the new like chairs and things.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Question for Christian.
Sure.
Again, how your recommendations will help our image as a public.
That's actually.
Other recommendations you'd like? Okay. Well, our
This is the CEO I want to ask him, but no.
No, that's fine. So, can you ask that again, please?
How are your recommendations help us as a department again?
How will they help you as a department?
How would it help our image?
Your image. Oh, well, your image is going to be increased by simply creating a better atmosphere. That's what we talked about, the atmosphere part. Visiting there and doing research, we literally went through the process so that we could feel like students again and really experience the health service, how things happen in health services. So I think it would just increase and make students more willing to go and sit in the waiting room and wait to see the doctor. And obviously, every company wants to increase their image and better their image. That's one of our top priorities. Just like us as individuals, we want to make sure we put our best face forward. I think U.S. Health Services would like to do that same thing.
Okay, at this time, we're going to cut the questions because we're going to move on to the next presentation, but thank you very much for everything.